Welcome everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Please subscribe to the channel and come back often to get more no frills, no nonsense valuable health information. Today I'd like to tell you a story of how certain mentally ill people use their power to control and manipulate others without them even realizing it. This is a cautionary tale of what can happen when a society gives up its autonomy and allows itself to be taken over by one figure or a few who are incapable of working toward the common good of the people. This story takes place in Chesterbridge, a small village surrounded by vibrant forests and beautiful rivers. The village was known not only for its charm, but how close-knit the people were. Chesterbridge thrived on its values of kindness and community. Every morning the villagers would greet each other with smiles, and the streets were filled with laughter. The aroma of freshly baked bread from Eliza's bakery always filled the air. But the peace of Chesterbridge was soon to be shattered when a stranger arrived in the town. His name was Mr. Piper. He was a tall, imposing man with a flair for drama and a voice that could captivate any audience. His arrival coincided with the upcoming mayor's election, and he decided to enter the race. The people knew very little about his background, but he won their hearts. His speeches promised prosperity, modernization, and a new golden age for the village. Mr. Piper was smooth and convincing, spinning tales of greatness that impressed the villagers. Eliza the baker, Mr. Thomas the schoolteacher, and Henry the blacksmith were all pillars of the community, and they were swept away by Mr. Piper and his promises. Not surprisingly, Mr. Piper was elected as their mayor. Everyone was full of hope and enthusiasm. At first, his policies seemed great, and they believed they would benefit the village. He promised new infrastructure and better services, and the people were so excited. Little did they know that they had elected a man who would soon reveal his true colors. Once in office, Mayor Piper's true nature began to show. His promises of prosperity quickly turned into demands for control and loyalty. The once friendly village meetings became tense and filled with fear. Mayor Piper's rules were harsh and not based on the law, but his own personal feelings. He imposed heavy taxes, restricted personal freedoms, and started rewarding only those who showed unwavering support for him. His speeches were no longer about unity, but about his own greatness and the failures of anyone who dared to oppose him. Mayor Piper's charm took on a darker edge as he began to manipulate the villagers. Eliza, Thomas, and Henry, who had once been community leaders, found themselves drawn into the mayor's orbit. He used his power to subtly coerce them, rewarding them for their loyalty and punishing anyone who questioned his actions. Eliza was given control over the village's food distribution. Thomas was put in charge of educational reforms, and Henry was given the job of overseeing public projects. Each one was given a certain amount of authority, and because of Mayor Piper's persuasive influence, they became tools of his dictatorial regime. Under Mayor Piper's reign, Chesterfield was transformed from a welcoming community into a place of fear and submission. The mayor's charisma was treacherous and deceitful. It infiltrated the minds of everyone around him. Through carefully orchestrated speeches and manipulative tactics, he created an atmosphere where dissent was not tolerated. He demanded not just obedience, but admiration, often staging grand events where villagers were forced to publicly praise his virtues. The village began to crumble under the weight of Mayor Piper's increasingly authoritarian rule. Infrastructure projects were mismanaged, leading to deteriorating roads and collapsing buildings. The treasury, once robust, was drained by Piper's lavish expenditures and questionable investments. The financial stability of Chesterbridge was compromised, and the villagers found themselves struggling to make ends meet. Eliza, once the beloved baker, became an enforcer of Mayor Piper's policies. She would hold extravagant feasts where only those who publicly supported the mayor were allowed to attend. Thomas, the former educator, began teaching children that the mayor was a heroic figure and that any criticism of him was an act of betrayal. Henry, who had once built with pride, now oversaw projects that served only to glorify the mayor's regime, often at the expense of the villagers' needs. Mayor Piper's influence wasn't just limited to those in his immediate circle. His mental manipulation started to have a contagious effect on others. Vulnerable individuals, already struggling with their own insecurities or personal issues, found themselves swayed by Piper's rhetoric. He exploited their weaknesses, drawing them into his circle of influence. These individuals, now part of his following, helped him suppress any remaining resistance. One day, a frightening incident occurred. A beloved young mother named Amelia was found dead under suspicious circumstances. She had been outspoken against the mayor's policies, and her death was marked by a chilling silence from the authorities. Mr. Harcourt, the village's wise elder, who had once been a voice of reason, also died under mysterious and equally suspicious conditions. The loss of these two people sent shockwaves through Chesterbridge, but the fear that the mayor instilled in the villagers prevented them from questioning too deeply. Even though the darkness was growing, a small group of villagers began to see through Mayor Piper's facade. Clara, a healer who had always been in tune with the emotional well-being of the village, and Jack, a former town guard with a strong sense of justice, started to notice the increasing signs of oppression and manipulation. They could see the effects of Mayor Piper's rule on their friends and neighbors and decided they had to act. Clara and Jack began to gather evidence of the mayor's corruption and the devastating impact of his policies. They faced a lot of pushback, including intimidation from the mayor's enforcers and some of the villagers who were afraid of retaliation. Despite the risks, they secretly organized other concerned citizens, building a network of resistance. They worked tirelessly, often in the dead of night, compiling records, testimonies, and proof of the mayor's crimes. The turning point came during a stormy night when Mayor Piper announced a grand celebration to mark his supposed achievements. Clara and Jack saw this as their chance to expose him. They put together a daring plan to reveal the truth to the entire village during this event. The villagers gathered in the town square, where Mayor Piper was going to deliver one of his grand speeches. As Mayor Piper took the stage, Clara and Jack presented their evidence. They spoke of the financial ruin, the deaths of Amelia and Mr. Harcourt, and the oppressive atmosphere that had taken hold of Chesterbridge. The villagers were stunned and began to murmur in disbelief. Mayor Piper was not amused and began threatening and warning Clara and Jack. His carefully cultivated veneer of importance and grandeur started to crack. The confrontation was tense and dramatic. Mayor Piper, realizing his power was slipping, attempted to escape, but the villagers, now united in their resolve, blocked his path. A struggle ensued, with Clara and Jack leading the charge to apprehend him. The once feared mayor was overpowered by the collective strength of the villagers, who had finally reclaimed their courage. Mayor Piper was driven out of Chesterbridge, his rule brought to an end by the bravery of those who refused to be silenced. The village faced a long and difficult road to recovery. Piper had done a lot of damage. The treasury was bankrupt, infrastructure was in ruins, and the community was deeply scarred by fear and loss. Yet, despite the ruins, Chesterbridge began to heal. Clara, Jack, and other survivors worked tirelessly to rebuild their community. They focused on restoring trust, addressing the psychological scars left by Piper's regime, and creating systems to prevent such abuses of power in the future. The village slowly regained its spirit of kindness and cooperation, though the memory of the dark times remained a somber reminder of the dangers of unchecked political power. Mayor Piper displayed the characteristics of a sociopath and a narcissist. His story is a cautionary tale for all societies and countries. Chesterbridge learned that while the greatest threats often come from within, the strength and survival of a society and a country lie in the ability to unite against darkness and reclaim the values of democratic rule, compassion, and integrity. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and return often to get more no-frills, no-nonsense, valuable health information. Until next time, be safe, be well, and be prosperous.